Hello, hello. Hope all is well. I just wanted to give you a quick uh, insight of what you're about to see. I was invited to a podcast by friends of mine who I've met. You'll get more details in the podcast itself, how I met them. They share a different belief than I do, and you will see I would say, a healthy dialogue that was made between us, and that I was sharing the link with the Ten Commandments and what's taking place that is important for us to all know and that concerns all of us today. All right, so let's take a look.
Here we go. So I'm going to bring my guest. Welcome, Sheldon. Once
Yes,
again,
welcome.
thank you
Yes,
for being there,
thank you,
sister. I appreciate it.
thank you. Yes, thank you for inviting
And
me again.
yeah, no problem. And it's a good thing. I like it when I have a guest on the show and we can cover two languages. And because this is what I'm doing here on the Libercast, I'm covering two languages. So if there's people who are new to this podcast, this is an open podcast. I'm getting people who wants to actually share about their knowledge and wisdom and ideologies and things like that, so we can talk together and get on neutral ground and having conversation together. So if you have certain knowledge that is connected with freedom, it's connected with natural law, psychology, health, overall things like that, then contact me. My name is right under there. Here we go. Fred Gingras on the Libercast. I'm on the Facebook. The group is there. And then if you want to see all the stuff that I do, and then it's gonna be, oh, there we go. I'm gonna put it there. So YouTube, Facebook, Odyssey, and D Live. So I was just for to begin, and for the people who wants to don't know you, uh, can you talk a little bit quickly over your path and where you came from and what is your work, where we can get it?
Okay, thank you for the opportunity for me to share with our English speaking audience. My name is Sheldine Altador. I was born and raised in Montreal, Quebec. My mom is from Barbados. My father is Haitian. And I just to quickly tell our viewers here, I met Fred and his wife. Actually, I met his wife first at a homeschooling parent meetup that was held in Lac-Mégantic, Quebec. Some of you may have heard of the tragedy that took place in Lac-Mégantic with the derailment that happened. They had a documentary on that. Anyways, it's in that town where I met them, and we had a conversation. I gave her a little gift called The Great Controversy, and we were talking for a good while, just talking about, religious freedom, and freedom of conscience and different things. And she said to me, "You need to meet my husband. He does podcasts." I said, "Oh, really? Okay." So the following month, I believe, Fred, if I'm mistaken, I think it was the following month I met you. I came and I saw you there, and we started talking. We started talking for a good while, and then finally we end up here. That's why I'm here as a guest. Now, to give you a background about who I am and my path, or I would say my journey, is I grew up as a Catholic. I was non-practicing, as they say. I was not a good Catholic, as they say. But I was sincerely seeking truth. And one day I was invited to a gathering with young people. And I was really amazed of the things that I've learned and discovered. And I come to learn that Jesus died for me and my sins. He forgave me and he wants me to be made whole. And so I saw life in a different light and a new purpose. I also learned that, just to bring up what Fred was sharing in the French podcast, the imagery of Christ with the sun in the back, I learned that was actually from a Catholic source, the imagery of Christ. Now, that's the worship of the sun god, paganism.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't subscribe to paganism. So I'm a Seventh-day Adventist Christian Protestant. That's how I came into the faith. Actually, it was when I learned about the history of our pioneers and our Protestants who died for their faith, and they died for standing up for truth, for standing up for liberty of conscience, and for the Bible and the Bible only, as they say in Latin, sola scriptura, right? And so I was like, wow, the courage that these people had. And that's how we had our freedoms today. I got to learn that they were persecuted through the Catholics. There's nothing wrong, nothing against the Catholic people, but the system itself, the teaching, the dogmas. And so over the course of time, the Protestants were persecuted by the papists for subscribing to the Bible and not subscribing to their pagan teachings and putting their teachings above the Bible. And so this is where Adventism Protestantism was born, from the Great Disappointment in 1844. One of the American reformers by the name of William Miller actually stood for religious freedom, for the freedom of conscience. And that's how, as part of the actually amendment of, if I'm not mistaken, the Constitution that we have today, freedom of conscience, if you will. That's what I understood, what I believe now as a Seventh-day Adventist Protestant, to answer your question. So I became Adventist. I was baptized rather, in 1998. It was the best day of my life. And it was my mom was there. She gave me a hug. I cried. It was the best day of my life. I saw things in a whole new meaning and purpose. And I learned about the Sabbath, which I was taught growing up as a Catholic, that we would go to church on Sunday. And I learned that Sunday was a worship of the sun god, the sun god, Sunday, right? And so I said, wait. But then I remember in Mark chapter 2:28, when Jesus says that he is Lord of the Sabbath. And so when actually, I have the link, I'll share later in this presentation, that you'll be amazed to see that even the Roman Catholics themselves admit that they changed the Sabbath, the biblical Sabbath, to Sunday, because they have authority over the Bible. And this is where the controversy lies between Protestantism and Catholicism. We love the people, we're just, against the teachings, if you will, because we put God, in other words, we put God and the Bible as a rule of life. So that's where I want to share. And that's how I came into this faith.
So where can people get into your work? Because I know you have a YouTube page in French and English, yeah. So I'm gonna.
Yeah, so just to give you a background about my channel, so what I do, this is how I became in ministry. I don't monetize any of my videos. I only share because sharing is caring, and I have love for my audience, I guess. So I believe in just sharing, exhorting, encouraging. So in my channel, I share my country living journey. I also share testimonies, inspirationals. I share poetry. I'm also I write poetry as well. And I do interviews, kind of what Fred is doing. I interview people, and I share some health nuggets, because I also had studied in nutrition, and I studied naturopathy, which is another journey by itself, by the way. I learned that my body, I don't put anything that will harm the body. That's what we believe as Seventh-day Adventists. We believe that our body is the temple of the Holy Spirit, that we don't just defile our body with any and anything, right? And so, so pretty much what we do this is what I do in this channel. I've been doing it. I had this channel for like 12 years now. And what was birthed from that was from my book entitled Poetry of Love, Rhymes, and Reason. Hence, that's when the channel was born, from my book that I wrote. It was a book of poems talking about our beliefs, our faith, to encourage. And so that's my channel, as you see right there. It's Christ-centered content. And not the pagan form of imagery that the Catholics would show, the imagery of Christ with the sun behind his head. Not that type of imagery. The Christ that we know that's from the Bible, biblical. And I also have a French channel that was recently birthed, because I also have a love for my French people out there, which is called Poésie d'amour Média, for our French speakers out there. And I also have a channel for the little ones as well, to encourage the little ones who desire to have People seeking morality, right? So it's Christ-centered content for the little ones as well. Oh, and I also share my homeschooling journey on my channel. Oh, you're muted, Fred.
Oh,
Oh, you're
so
muted.
we talked a little before the podcast, and I would really like to have you once again later and talk about something else than what we're gonna touch on tonight, and homeschooling and gardening and things that we can do for really help ourselves, and if we can obtain this abundance. And I'm always talking about abundance in the sense of a mindset, and we are sole creators of that. We if we want something, we want autonomy, we want to grow food. You're not just praying or meditating and hoping that it's going to happen by itself. We have to put hard work into it. We have to do this and water them and make them grow. And it's just like children are incredible smart human beings, and they're beautiful. And parenting and all these things that are crucial, but other subject that we're not going to touch on tonight. But it's about growing. I keep on repeating that. It's about growing up in this world of deception and lies,
Mm,
and to make our work and try to find the truth the way that we can. you know
mm,
some people have more chance than others. Some people will have more will than other people, and what I'm trying to do here on the podcast is to join people together.
mm,
I'm tired of these divisions. I'm tired of these chicanery, these thug wars, these ideological fights and things like that leads nowhere. And I really wanted to build something, you know. And I'm not doing that for you and me, Sheldon. I'm doing it for the children. If you have children, if you know that people who have children, what this is they are why we're fighting for. This is why we're doing what we're doing. Whatever the culture, whatever the ideologies or the philosophies behind it, we're all connected to nature intimately. So I know you wanted to talk about the Ten Commandments, and I think it would be a good time to do it before we're getting deeper into it.
yes. So, for those who may be unfamiliar with the Ten Commandments, I just want to take our viewing audience to first understand what the Bible is, because there's often times where there may be people may think Bible is just a fable, it's just man-made and ideologies and so forth. Coming from a background where I was not even reading the Bible, I was not even a practicing Christian, if you will. I come to discover and learn that the Bible is one of the most inspirational books I've ever read in my life. I've read so many books. One of my hobbies is reading. Besides gardening and cooking, I love to read. People who know me know I read a lot of books. And we need to get back to that time where, people are into electronics a lot. Nothing wrong with that in and of itself, but we need to go back to reading our books. I find we're losing the art of reading, and so forth. But just to quickly give a snippet, there are 66 books in the Bible, and the Bible is divided into 4 sections. You have the poetics, so you have the historicals, right, that you have in the beginning. You have the poetry. For example, the book of Psalms, the book of Proverbs. You also have the prophecies, right? And we also have the letters and epistles that we find in the New Testament. But I won't get into that now because of time. But just to give you a little background of where I stand as an Adventist Protestant Christian. Now, the Ten Commandments, just to bring it to that, everybody's looking for some type of morality. But before I get into the 10 Commandments, let's just go what the news is talking about here. Let me just share my screen. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, let me just go here. So some of you may be familiar with what's happening in Louisiana about the 10 Commandments law. It says here, civil liberty groups filed a lawsuit Monday to block Louisiana's new law that requires the 10 Commandments to be displayed in every public school classroom, a measure they contend is unconstitutional. Okay, I'll stop sharing. Now, I remember I shared, Fred, and your viewers earlier that what the Protestants had stood for and died for, right? We also know that in every time there's force involved, there's a powerful quote by one of the most world's translated author. You should check her out on your spare time. Her name is Ellen G. White. She wrote one of the books, actually, Great Controversy, which I gave to Fred and their family as a gift. I'm actually going through this book right now as we speak. And it's amazing when we forget to, I said in French, remember I shared that, when we tend to forget our history, we're doomed to repeat it. Remember that? I shared that in the French one. If we tend to forget our history, we're doomed to repeat it, right? What usually happens when we enforce? Now, we can use the Bible as an example. Christ, he was persecuted when the Pharisees, the religious figures, went to the state. And what happened as a result? Persecution took place. And so, if we understand our history, history has a way of repeating itself. Now, the 10 Commandments in and of itself is not a bad thing because it talks about the law, the moral laws, how we treat our fellow man. We should not steal, we should not kill, we should not commit adultery, we should not covet, we should have no other gods, we should keep the Sabbath. This is our love. The first 4 commandments talks about our love towards God. The last 6 commandments talk about our love towards fellow man. This is good. But the problem lies is when we enforce it on everyone who may not even have a relationship with God and may not understand. So what did I say by this? What I mean? For me, as a homeschooling parent, I teach my son the 10 Commandments. That's something that what we call liberty of conscience, the freedom of liberty of conscience, where I, as a Christian, Protestant, I'm at liberty to teach this to my son. But I cannot force it on someone else who may not believe in God, right? But when the church and state unite, that's when it can become problematic. Okay? And there are many examples of this. We see this in the Protestant Reformation, the French Revolution. I'm sure, Fred, you may have heard the history of the French Revolution that took place. Are you familiar with the history of the French Revolution, where Bibles were burned and so forth, but they were enforcing, things were being enforced. Were you familiar with that in any way, shape, or form? Oh, I think you're muted, Fred. Sorry, you're muted.
Yeah, there have been a lot of things like that. We can mention the autodate from the Nazis and the great burning of the Alexandria Library. There's been war raging, cults against cults, religion against authority, and things like that.
Right. And so, as you can see, every time there's force, there's a perfect quote that says this, that sums it up really well. It says, behind every force, right? I'm paraphrasing, is a false religion, because God is not in the force. What I'm trying to say in a nutshell is that the religion of Christ has nothing to do with force. He's like a gentleman. It says in Revelation, he knocks at the door. If any man hears his voice, he will then, and opens, he will come in. Satan, and we as Christians, by the way, we believe in the controversy between Christ and Satan. Let me give you an analogy. In the army, I used to be in the Air Cadets, okay? I was a corporal. in the air cadets, or not air cadets, but in the army, right? There's always a rival. If they say, oh, there's no enemy that exists, there's no enemy that exists, what would happen? If they believe that there's no enemy, will they be on guard? What do you think? Will they be on guard? Yes
Yeah,
or no?
there's always a perceived enemy. Every time.
That's right. So we as Christians, we believe, as true Protestant Christians, that is, because not everyone who's Christian is considered, Christian. There's paganism involved and so forth. But through Christ, only through Christ, we can be like him and have, act, kind and do good things. It's only through Christ, not our own strength, because we're filthy, we're sinners. But through Christ, we can do good things, righteous acts, right? But fasting forward, we believe in the great controversy between Christ and Satan. And it has been since the beginning of time. Even in the media, you can see it in cartoons. Have you ever seen in a cartoon, somebody has a conscience, you have like an evil angel speaking, and then you have a good angel? Mm-hmm. It's everywhere. People know. And so we know that this controversy will come to an end. And Fred, you said something interesting earlier. You said, it's nice to have unity. Yes, I agree. There should be unity. But unfortunately, because of the conflict between good and evil, there will not be unity in the direction where it's like those who stand for God or for Christ or for good, and those who want evil. It's just never going to mesh together. Unfortunately, Christ predicted it. We see it happening over and over and over. And it's often said that the Antichrist is the papacy. Yes, it's the papacy. He's against anything that is Christ. But besides the papacy, anyone who is against Christ and doing good and, following his teachings, if you will, is a spirit of an Antichrist. And so the purpose of the gospel, instead of pushing the commandments on people need to first discover the one who wrote the 10 Commandments with his finger, who is God himself. It's his character. We should understand who he is, and the fact that Christ died for us so that we have a second chance of experiencing to have a chance rather of having everlasting life. We don't believe that the wicked will burn forever. It is often taught, that's why atheism is on the rise too, because they see a lot of atrocities happening within the papacy and the persecution and the bloodthirst and all that. That's why there's a lot of atheism too today, because this would happen from the French Revolution too, where they say, wait, if you guys are professing to love God, why are you killing? Why are you persecuting? The Pharisees, it's a bad witness. It's a bad example. And people are looking for authentic Christians who actually do right. And people want that. Who does not want somebody who is standing for what is right, for what is truth, right? And so this is a struggle. Yeah. This is the battle. And so the good news is unity will take place when, and only freedom of choice, if one chooses to accept the Lord Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior. But that's a choice. But those who do not choose their Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ as our Lord and Savior, who died for me, for all of us, whether we believe it or not, of course, but it's a choice. Those who don't accept him, unfortunately, there's damnation. We do not believe, however, that the wicked do not burn forever, right? They don't burn forever. So that's a misconception right there. Because the God that we serve and love, he's often painted as God. He's a tyrant. He'll just destroy you. If you do something wrong, he'll just zap you out of existence. If that was the case, the devil would have been destroyed since the beginning. But he's so patient, long-suffering. He's waiting till the judgment final day, on the last day before Christ returns. As I said in the French podcast, we believe in the return of Christ. I was quoting that one of the viewers were asking about the return of Christ, and I was answering Acts chapter 1, verses 10 and 11, where it talks about the same Jesus who ascended in a cloud will come back in the like manner. I also mentioned in the French podcast, what is faith? I mentioned that those, let's say, who are atheists, their faith is, for example, they believe that in their pursuits, they will succeed. That's some level of faith for them. Or they will have faith that they will see the next day, right? Or they have faith that when they take the bus, they're going to go to their destination, right? Everyone is looking for, everyone has that some level of faith. But what we believe as Christians, faith comes by hearing and hearing of the word of God. And we act upon what we hear, and through faith we will overcome. And this is the secret
Yeah.
of the power of the gospel that we believe.
Honestly, this is where I totally disconnect. The fact that you mentioned that we were dirty and that we're gonna suffer because we don't believe in Jesus Christ. This is where the divisions are starting. When you start to detach yourself from the outside world and you accept you descend into salvationism, I this is where we disagree. But
Mm-hmm.
essentially, what I wanted to do with that is the Ten Commandments, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
just gonna tell the same thing that I tell in the French podcast, is that every crimes that is talked about on the Ten Commandments are from theft,
Mm-hmm.
theft of theft of physical condition, theft of consent, theft of material things. So every kind of violence whatsoever is a form of the theft. It,
Oh, like thou
you
shalt
know,
not steal, right? Like
most,
thou shalt not steal.
yeah, still life. Do do shall not murder. It's thieving life of someone.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is turns around the theft, this
Mm-hmm.
crime, this violence, and this is what we're trying. What I'm trying to do here on the podcast is to bring back people to common sense. Common sense is the knowledge of what right and wrong is, good and evil. In your
Mm-hmm.
case, it's
Mm-hmm.
the same thing, you know, and evil is introduced into human by parents. They're introduced into by culture, by schools, by families, relative. Their cultural indoctrination. Your parents, my parents weren't perfect people. We were raised by
Mm-hmm.
moral relativists. We were born from uh, allegedly Satanist people without them knowing about it. And this is one of the things that is covered there: mind control. This is what it's always been about. It's the first problem. The first problem is they control you and me and the people who are listening to this.
Thank you
The
for sharing.
power does not resides. The power does not resides in money. The power resides into influence, because they have much money. They don't, is they're stupid rich. Like, they're so rich they don't care about money. What they want, it's your consent. So most religions come from the religion from the stars. So you have, actually, you mentioned it, Sunday, it's the day of the sun, it's Catholic uh, 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 religion. Then you talked about Saturday, it's Saturn's day. So you have the Jewish, you have the Christians that is attached to this. They're essentially, if you go onto the Jewish and you go and look at the religion, they're talking about Saturn. You can see these black cubes everywhere. They're everywhere because it's representing the cult of Saturn, the cults of Saturn. So I talked about it in the French podcast. The cube, they have, uh, if you go in the Kaaba, they have these huge square cube in the middle of something, and they start turning all around it. And this turning that they're doing, the Muslim, is the rotation of the universe. They're representing stars, turning around the great sun. So these are, you can verify it, you can acquire knowledge about this. This is all discoverable. Every information that I told, that it's free to get and look into. So if Christians would really follow Jesus' actions and beliefs, we wouldn't have this world what we're living now. Jesus is a revolutionary. He helped the poor. He helped the disabled, the criminals, and he actually brought the Jewish people to revolution during his time. He said to people, sell everything you have and buy yourself a sword. He wanted people to get active. Again, he fought against authority. He fought against religions. He fought against money. The example of Jesus is if people think that he literally lived, I have nothing against that. The message is still stand. But the history is to showing us, just like the movie Oz, the world of Oz, the story of this girl who are going in the golden path, and she stumbled upon these people, these characters who wants, you have this scarecrow who wants a brain to think, and then you have the lion who wants courage, and then you have another one who wants the heart. It's all a metaphor for learning to be a good being, a spiritual being. So what's the responsibility behind it? The first thing that we have to do is stop lying to ourselves. Stop lying to ourselves about the condition of the world, the condition of our brothers and sisters of everywhere, because we're all brothers and sisters. Even if you're not Christian, even if you're not a Muslim or you're not atheist, we're still brothers and sisters in this world. But I'm going to bring up this comment: as above, so below. So as within, so without. So the people are projecting what they are inside. So if you have
Okay.
a mass of people, if you have a mass of people who join together and they're doing good things, then awesome. Bring change, bring love, bring care and nurturing for other people, taking care of each other's. But you have people who have the dark care. They care about doing hurt, about doing evil. And the one thing that I want to bring, because I know there are some Christians going to listen to it later or right now, I think the Christian perception of Satanism is widely wrong. Most people, not all people, most people are Satanists, ideological Satanists. Why? Because it's everywhere. It's in entertainment, it's in music, it's in religion, it's in cult, it's in government, everywhere. The Satanist is not someone who absolutely believes that there's a Satan. They don't believe in anything as Satan, as a deity. It's a mistake. It's a misconception of who they are. This is what they want you to believe. They are partaking into the cult of the ego. They want to be God. They're not using Satan as a monolith or something like that. It's not something that they're preaching at. They don't care about that. This is the street Satanism. This is the one that you see on TV. This is the one that you see with the statue. The statue who's doing the symbol and the children and things like that. That's the street level Satanists. The true Satanists, they're around you. Those people don't care about what right is, what and wrong is. They don't care about good and evil. They don't care about you. They only care about themselves. This is what Marx called the mini-me Satanists. Me. There's only me who I really need to put my energy. And if these people, they're in danger, they're gonna trample on you to get what they want. They want people sedated.
Can I add to? Do you mind if I share something?
Sure.
Okay, it's interesting. You brought something about Satanists everywhere. And the me. Actually, there's true, because the whole prince of this evil, well, the darkness, is Satan himself, and it was all about him. In fact, you didn't realize this, but you actually quoted from Isaiah 14, where it talks about, I shall ascend, I shall be like the Most High. He was seeking to have the throne of God. So it's interesting. You actually, what you just shared there is, we look back in scripture, it actually talks about that. And you mentioned about Christ. Now, Christ, when he came on this earth, he came to save man from their sinful condition. And the purpose of why we see all this evil in this world, unfortunately, is because the whole history started in heaven, where there was a war between Christ and Satan. And it says in Revelation, I'm sharing this from a Christian perspective, from a biblical perspective, that he actually convinced a third of the angels. It actually says stars in Revelation. Remember you mentioned about stars? It actually says in Revelation that he convinced a third of the stars. He convinced a third of the stars. And so he is the prince. He is behind all the evil that you see today. And unfortunately, because God is love, he will not bring someone to heaven if they know they don't choose him, but they're going to be miserable. God is love. He gives a freedom of choice. And I know this could be divisive, but it's a reality, because Christ himself, he said, think I came not to bring peace. Matthew 5:17, it says, think not I came to bring peace, but a sword. What does he mean by that? Remember, I was sharing that in French, right? What he meant by that. So, for example, if, let's say, the mother is a believer of Christ, the daughter is not. Because of this distinction or belief, it's going to be a separation. It's just a reality. We can't escape it. Now, of course, Jesus himself, he prayed for unity in John 17. But guess what unity he was praying for? He was praying for the unity of his believers, those who follow him. This is the unity he was praying about. And because we live in the conflict of good and evil, unfortunately, there will be division. I hear you, Fred. I hear you. Trust me, I hear you. And I believe you have good intentions. But from a biblical perspective, and also the faith I stand on, which I know will come to pass by faith, the same Christ we're talking about, he's going to come back to take his own, those who choose to accept him. But those who do not choose to accept him, they will not be happy in heaven. And unfortunately, those who are tied to the evil of this world, those who follow, because it's either two choices. There's no black and white. It's either we choose Christ or it's either we choose Satan. There's no middle ground. And that's a reality, right? But yeah, you said something else too about Saturn. I want to touch on that. Did you know, this is so interesting what you brought up, because it's actually in the Bible that in the beginning in Genesis, it used to be called, when God created all things, It was first day, second day, third day, fourth day, fifth day, sixth day, seventh day. All these days of the week were actually pagan names adopted by the Catholic Church,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Sure.
And so we as Seventh day Adventists, we're in a world where they adopted a new calendar, they adopted the new pagan names of the days of the week, but we have to live with it, right? Christ had to use a Julian calendar in his day. What can we do? But we follow the seventh day of the week. That's the point we're trying to say. Even though it's on a Saturday, we follow as Seventh day Adventists. This is my belief. This is where we stand. Is that we follow the seventh day of the week that God instituted in the beginning. And so, yeah, these are pagan names, you know.
Yeah, Christian as
Yeah.
such is born from paganism.
Well, actually, just to talk to that, um, the paganism actually stemmed from the Roman Catholic Church, Romanism, and actually, you'll check if you check history. History actually will fact checked what I said, is that the pagan names and Catholics are not considered as Christians, by the way, because a Christian by definition is those who follow the footsteps of Christ. Christ was not a pagan. He didn't follow the customs and the practice of paganism, right? He came actually to protest against the customs and the creeds of man, if you will. In Acts chapter 5, verse 29, his followers even said, I rather obey God than man, right? And we live in a society now where paganism is all over. It's in the holidays, your Christmas, your Halloween. I don't know if you heard about this former Satanist. Google, if you look him up, he actually shared about the deceptions of Halloween. It's all out there. I mean, look it up. Look it up on Google. It's out there. These are all pagan origins that stemmed from the Roman Catholic Church, Romanism. And so,
Mhm.
if you get the chance in this powerful book called The Great Controversy, you will discover that history has a funny way of repeating itself, but it's going to unfold what took place in history. Yeah.
There's many things that we could cover, but what I want to say is that this book that you're talking about has been mistranslated a lot of times. It has been modified with the time. There's many versions of it.
Oh, the Bible.
Yes. So, like Angela was telling in the comments there, you need to go into and read the Hebrew or Greek version of it to be really sure about what it is.
Mm-hmm.
What and the thing that I want to add is that for people, and it's okay to and I let me tell you, I absolutely appreciate what your presence tonight and sharing with us. I just want to tell you that. And the Constantinopian version of the Bible, there was two Christs they had to choose. They have two persona that Christ would have. There was
Mm.
two choices, and you have Judah and you have the Christ. So they choose Jesus. They choose Christ to represent what is known as Christianity here. So I suggest everyone to get into that. The Constantinopian conspiracy and things like that. There was a pope who was actually a Satanist, by the way. Yeah, this world is broken, and
Yeah.
I this is why I cover what I cover, because
Mm-hmm.
we have to be objective in what we're doing and what we're reading and what we're taking inside as mind food, because this is actually what we're nourishing our brain with. So this is a whole rabbit hole of discovery and studying. When it comes to you, we cannot be biased about this, because there's so much misinformation, so much lies and deception behind it. There's false Christians, There's atheists. Atheist is the last cul-de-sac. It's like they're at the same level as the New Agers.
Mm.
They're going nowhere because they are materialistic Satanists. They don't care about. They think that the universe or whatever you think it is dead. It's a machine. It cannot change. Cannot. There's no evolution. It's all materialistic in the basic, and this is where I disagree with them. Nature
Mm.
Nature is God. Nature is spirit. So what I mean by that is that the one true thing that we know we can observe, and this is where our language is coming, this is where our knowledge is coming, is from nature. We were worshippers of nature. We always been, and we're still are worshippers of nature. Some people worship the
Okay.
stars.
Oh, sorry.
Some people worship the stars. Some people worship some other things, Buddha or other personage and characters of these different cultures. But essentially, what we have to do as human beings is getting back to the root. The root of evil is pure ignorance, is crass ignorance. This is where evil resides. You know why? Because people were ignorant. They're ignoring good and evil. They're ignoring the connection we have with nature. They're ignoring the morality, what's right and wrong, what is correct to do. People are completely disconnected from nature. And what they have as a substitute, they have government, they have cults, they have religions. This is a substitution for a mother and a father. Religion as such is the nurturing, depend on what creed you are in. But there's the father and the mother and the child. And this trinity there, it's in every religion ever. Even in the occult. The father, the mother, and the child. The thought, the emotion, and the action. Why
Oh.
did they sacrifice the goddess? This is what they did with Catholics, I think, Catholicism. They sacrificed the mother, and she became a ghost. They actually inverted the religion that of the old. Today, you have prevalent, how do you call that? It's ruled by men, patriarchal. In the ancient world, it was matriarchal. This was the goddess of creation. She from her it's the birth of the stars, nature, creation, generative, creative aspect of it. This is how humans are made. We have masculine and we have feminine. These are metaphorical information and knowledge to help us discover ourselves, discover our nature, discover our secrets. Because humans are naive, humans are ignorant, they don't care about others, and this is why we have what we have now.
Mm. Yeah, a lot
Doesn't
of
mean
evil in this world.
yes,
Definitely a lot of evil in this world.
yes,
And you know, Christ, I thank God about Christ. He was the most unselfish example that he left for mankind. And you were mentioning about, we all worship nature. I'll give you a little analogy. If you look at I love art. I draw, I paint. I don't know if you like to draw or paint, but
sure.
I like to use this analogy. Is that if, let's say, you draw a nice, beautiful landscape or a nice drawing, do you look at the creation or the one who actually did the art? The one who actually, who usually gets the credit? Is the one who drew it, or is it the art itself?
Yeah, most of the time it's the art after the paint is dye.
So
You
it's the artist, right? Who gets the credit, the artist or the art itself?
I mean, if someone is exposing his art, sure, it's all about them for sure.
It's the artist,
Yeah.
right? And so I like to, I would say, happily say, I worship the God who created nature. In fact, back in the beginning, when he created all things, he created beautifully. He created the sun, the moon, the stars. He created the fruits, the trees. He created you and me, whether we believe it or not. I know I didn't come from no ape or monkey. I know I was fearfully and wonderfully made. I know that you are fearfully and wonderfully made. And by the way, congratulations on your recent son, your birth of your son. Beautiful gift from God.
Sure.
It's a beautiful gift. And when we look at things around us, Fred, in this world today, you know, we cannot be just in awe. It says in Psalms 19, verse 1, the handiwork. It's a powerful, just want to encourage with this. It's beautiful. It's in line with what in thoughts of nature, right? It says here in Psalms 19, verse 1, it says, the heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. Wow. To know that you and I, your beautiful son, created in your image. You see, you look at your little boy, your cute little boy. Meryl was saying, "Oh, look at his cheeks." I was saying that earlier, off before we had this live cast, right? And he was bearing the image of your image and your wife's image. But imagine God, he created us so that we could replicate his image. His image.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a beautiful promise, Fred. I'm sick and tired of this evil in this world. I agree with you. Do you think it's fun to see all this selfishness and evil and pride? And
Mm-hmm.
everyone's trying to step on each other's toes and trying to be ahead and money. And you see something? Christ lived like a pauper. He lived a humble life. Remember I was telling you earlier too, off the camera, I like to live a simple, humble life in the country, right? We just live simply, Fred. We trust me, we just live simply as a homeschooling mom. I'm content if I have food to eat, I have a roof on my head. If I can help somebody, I will help them. When God blesses me, I'll give, and I'm content. It says in Paul in the book. Remember, I told you the Bible is divided into 4 groups. Paul said that I learned to be content in whatsoever state I am. This is what Christians, true Christians, that is, believe. We believe that we need to put others first and ourselves behind. That's what Christ did. You are created in his image, Fred. So I have to treat you and respect you for the value that you are because Christ died for you. You're a precious soul. Christ, he would come on earth even for one sinner, one person. He will still come and die for you, Fred. He will still come and die for me. If you knew my story, how I was before Christ, you would cry. He brought me from a long way.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting here before you now and before your audience and before God and the angels. All the knowledge that I'm sharing with you is from him. All glory goes to him. I take no credit. The creator, the artist, like the analogy I share with you, the artist takes all the credit. I am just a vessel. I'm just a spokesperson.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just an ambassador for the new heavens and new earth that Christ promised he will give for each and every one of us. True paradise, not the paradise that we see. We go on vacation. Remember I shared on the French podcast, I was saying before I close off because it's getting late. Remember I was saying we go on vacation. I don't know if you go your favorite getaway place. Oh, that's paradise. Or we say the place where I'm at in Piopolis, right? Ah, c'est petit coin de paradis when we say in French. Little paradise, right? But nothing is compared to what God has in store for us. There'll be no more sin, no more selfishness. There'll be true unity again, restored. This is our Christian hope. What Christ is coming back for, he will destroy sin, Satan, his evil angels, all the evil you see in this world. There'll be no more cheating, lying, stealing. No, no more. This is the hope. This is why I'm here today, is
Mhm.
the hope that Christ gave in me. I see life in a different perspective. My life has completely changed because of Christ and Christ alone. So that's what I want to share as I end off. So as you just heard in the podcast, what I wasn't able to address the other points he made because of technical difficulties on their end. I wanted to bring out some of the points he mentioned. For example, he mentioned about we all look at nature, we all behold nature, which I disagree because as Christians, that this is actually by definition pantheism, which is a form of paganism belief, and we don't subscribe to that as Seventh-day Adventists. Another thing he brought up was the matriarchs and patriarchs and everything. Again, this is a paganism belief. We don't subscribe to that as well. And he mentioned about Judaism, the Judeo, Saturday and so forth. In the Bible, the seventh day is mentioned biblically is the Sabbath. So even in Judaism, there are some, they adopted still some paganism practices intertwined, and so forth, which as we know, stems originally from Romanism. And so I hope that you were blessed by the podcast and that you were enlightened, and that we need to be ready as we're awaiting the soon return of Jesus Christ. And you're encouraged. If you are new to this channel and you're viewing this for the first time, feel free to subscribe, like, and share this video far and wide, and may we be ready for Jesus' soon return. God bless you, and Maranatha. Bye-bye. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1.